Hey, Special Chronicles listeners, I'm Daniel Smokowski, founder of Special Chronicles, coming to you at the start of the program to invite you to join our community and support our 2026 Giving campaign to keep amplifying the voices of individuals with special needs. Your gift powers studio operations, production, and inclusive media. Donate today at specialchronicles.com/give.
This is Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.
I shudder thinking how the world can be so cruel. Lend my voice to those who can't. It's time we try, it's time we care, it's time we stand. It starts with a voice.
Welcome back to the Special Chronicles podcast. I'm Daniel Smokowski, host and founder of Special Chronicles and a former Southern Shriver Global Messenger of Special Olympics. And today we're joined by a friend that I've known for quite a few years, David Evangelista, the incoming CEO of Special Olympics International. David has devoted his life to the movement, from volunteering at the 1995 World Games to leading programs across 58 countries and building global partnerships to champion inclusion for people with intellectual disabilities worldwide. In this episode, we'll hear about his journey, his vision for the future, and what inclusion truly means to him. Another quick note to let you know to support the Special Chronicles 2026 Giving campaign, specialchronicles.com/give, to help us produce weekly episodes, share inclusive stories, and amplify voices that deserve to be heard. You can learn more about Special Olympics at specialolympics.org and follow the Special Chronicles podcast on specialchronicles.com or wherever you get your podcast. So let's dive in and put your virtual hands together as we welcome David on Special Chronicles. Welcome, David.
Thank you very much, Daniel. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yes, it's good to have you on the program. And when I was preparing for the podcast today, I was trying to think back of when we first got connected.
Gosh, that was years ago.
Yes.
That was years ago. I think, gosh, that's going to be close to 10 years, maybe close to 10 years.
Close to 10 years, yeah, absolutely. So before we dive into more of your journey in Special Olympics, can you just give us a brief overview of your long career within the Special Olympics movement?
Yes, I will, Daniel. But before I do that, I want to share, number one, how grateful I am for this very generous invitation. But most of all, I want to commend what has been a tremendous and now quite sustained type of trajectory that you've dedicated yourself to on Special Chronicles. It's been wonderful to watch. You've had such a rich and diverse set of guests. I'm very proud to be one of them. So a big congratulations to you first, Daniel, and thank you on behalf of all of us at Special Olympics. I think all of us across the movement celebrate Special Chronicles every time we see it. So let me start there. So I'm David Evangelista. I'm a native of the state of Rhode Island in the United States of America. I volunteered as a child in Special Olympics for many years, and I'm the very proud son of the Steve Evangelista, founder of Special Olympics in the state of Rhode Island, who has been a lifelong mentor and guide to me over the course of my entire career and life. I started in Special Olympics International in June of 1999, just out of college, just out of university. I started in the sports and competition department. And very quickly moved over to the games and competition department. And about a year after that, still within the first, I think, 24 months of my tenure at Special Olympics, I was brought into what at the time was a very new property, very new, called Healthy Athletes. If you can imagine that at the time when I started, that was a very new platform, just started. I think we were in maybe 3 or 4 countries at the time, maybe 4 or 5 states. So you can imagine the growth that I've had the great privilege and honor of witnessing, and I guess in part being a small part of. Very proud of the work that we're doing in Special Olympics, and very excited to share some of my thoughts and impressions and aspirations on this podcast.
Absolutely, yeah. Speaking of, you said that you started in the sports department. I think for a lot of us, whether we're a former Southern Tribal Global Messenger, a current SSGM, or just involved in athlete leadership overall, the same way of how you got started, all of us athletes across the globe got started first in sports and then moved into athlete leadership. So it's neat that unified way of how you also both got started in the sports development and then moved into leadership as well.
It's funny, Daniel. As a child, I remember, some of my earliest memories, in fact, as a child. And I truthfully, Daniel, admittedly, I wasn't fully aware of what it is I was witnessing. As years have come on, it's become very clear to me how what a remarkable thing it was that I was witnessing. But some of my earliest memories were running around, whether it be in my home or in local Special Olympic events. Very, very vivid memories. But my first formal volunteer experience, when I say formal, I was of age, was actually the 1995 Special Olympics World Summer Games in New Haven, Connecticut. That was my first formal volunteer role. I was with an icon of our movement named George Smith. Who I basically shadowed for those games. He was at the time vice president of sport, I believe, at Special Olympics Incorporated. And so I think it's both fortuitous. It's a great advantage that I started my career in Special Olympics focused on the inside of our sport movement. Things such as the general rules, working with international sport federations, looking to strengthen our positioning within the global sport ecosystem. I've taken those lessons with me throughout my career, and I probably wasn't the best sport official. I don't consider myself necessarily a great athlete, but I love sports. I love competing in sports. Of course, like most, we all love winning. But what I think, sport is a classroom. I mean, when you really consider, sport is unto itself a classroom. It teaches us so many things. There are teachers, there are pupils, there are classmates, there are tests, and there are great rewards. And so it's very ironic that I started my career, as an administrative assistant. In the sports and competition department. Awesome. Yeah, I love that. Building upon your early experience volunteering at the 1995 World Games, to now stepping into for the past number of years, you've been the regional president of your Asia region, and now stepping into the CEO role. What does it mean to be named the next CEO of Special Olympics? Well, Daniel, I have to say it's the honor of my life. This has been being appointed, incoming chief executive officer of this movement is in every way, the deepest honor professionally that I could ever have imagined. I believe deeply that Special Olympics represents one of, if not the most beautiful part of human history. It blends so many things together. It blends sport, it blends inclusion, it blends solidarity, it blends dignity, it blends community. It blends the individual, but it also blends the collective. Through Special Olympics, we're able to see the world and each other differently, but we're also able to just kind of rediscover ourselves. I think it's remarkable what the movement has done since its inception, starting with the most innovative and daring, dare I say, even audacious proposition from Eunice Kennedy Shriver, our founder. And then, having the deep honor of witnessing the prolific global growth and expansion of our movement under our current chairperson, Dr. Timothy Shriver. I think that Special Olympics represents the very best of what the global community has to offer. I'm consistently intrigued, and I mean that in the most positive and most forward-leaning way. I'm consistently intrigued by the depth and wisdom of Special Olympic athletes from all walks, from all creeds, from all ideologies. I've been very privileged and been very humbled by the opportunity to have met so many of them, and yet, how many more I have to learn from. So stepping into this role is one that I take with a great sense of urgency, the deepest sense of seriousness. And also, with that kind of nervous excitement that comes with a new role and kind of a new beginning, if you will. But most importantly, what it means to me is that I am going to be in a position that offers me not only the great opportunity, but also the highest responsibility to advocate for and learn from individuals with intellectual disabilities across the world. And from my experience, over 26 years in the movement professionally and many years as a volunteer, it's clear the magnitude of that responsibility. And so I assume it with great seriousness, with great pride, and in the spirit of Special Olympic athletes, with the proper sense of bravery that comes in daring to win.
Awesome. We're recording this at the end of 2025, and when you think about beginning this role in 2026, what you might have touched a little bit on it just before, but what excites you the most about beginning this role in 2026? I know in the U.S. we've got our next national games. Those I think I hold the next Unified Football Cup.
Yep.
Will be taking place next year, and then the year after that, the next World Games. First time in the Latin America region. So there's a few both, and I'm sure other programs have the national games as well. But there's some big national games coming up and some international events. So what excites you about your role beginning in 2026?
Well, what excites me the most is the fact that I have the opportunity to learn at such a much wider and deeper level. Like I said, I've always been so. In fact, even dating back to my university days, Daniel, I did my senior year thesis on the study of eugenics, which was a very controversial and still remains quite controversial study around the way in which, at that time, the scientific and medical community, but also more, social community, viewed people of differences. And that really spawned in me kind of this intellectual vein of wanting to understand deeper how inclusion can not only be understood by individuals around the world, but how it can be applied. And I think the athletes of Special Olympics are by far the most prolific teachers of that theme. And I believe Dr. Tim Shriver, our chairman, when he says that, how many of the world's ills could we fix if we fixed inclusion? How much of climate change could be facilitated if we got inclusion right? All of the toxic nature at times of our politic, how much of that could be fixed if we got inclusion right? How many economic problems could be fixed if we got inclusion right? And so what I'm most excited about, Daniel, by far, is the classroom that I'm going to be stepping into, the desk that I will assume that I could very much consider a student desk. The movement of Special Olympics is from the athletes. And what an honor and privilege it is to be able to learn from them in this new role. That's what I'm most excited about. What I'm also very excited about is the ability to witness and to help support. In many ways, I see myself as kind of chief partner more than anything. My job in large part is, of course, to serve as chief executive officer, but also to support the empowerment of people with intellectual disabilities and the entire movement, the team, the staff, the program leaders, the volunteers. So I'm really excited about witnessing things like the first ever World Summer Games in Latin America and Santiago, Chile. What a joy it's going to be to watch the first ever Unified Football Cup in Europe. Of course, this is a region where football is king. But also, how great it will be, and how excited I am to witness the first health screening that a new doctor will participate in. How excited I am to think of the teacher I'll speak to who never was trained in how to implement Unified Champion Schools programming. And I'll have a chance to learn from that teacher about what he or she understood and how they managed the new curriculum and how they implemented a new unified sports program and what the impression was of all the participants, athletes and unified partners alike. How motivational it will be to learn from the families that I will undoubtedly reach out to and speak to learn how Special Olympics can provide even more impact, even more support for the athletes of Special Olympics, how we can offer more volunteer opportunities for people who wish to engage or donate or coach in our movement. So, of all of the things that I'm excited about, and gosh, Daniel, the list is surely long, but chief among all of those points is the excitement that I have that I can learn, that I can. I'll be bold on this one, Daniel, and I'll say what I'm excited about is that with all this learning, my hope is that I can bring the best David Evangelista to this post. And I say that because I've always found myself, just many people have asked over the years, especially here in Europe and in other parts of the world where our brand awareness is not as strong as it is in countries like the United States or Ireland or Jamaica or places like that. And I often describe Special Olympics as a movement of discovery. And a lot of people ask me, what do I mean by that? And I say, well, because you go into Special Olympics thinking that you know, and you find out quickly that you don't, and that you have to learn from the athletes who lead our movement. And in that learning, you discover so many incredible things that were out of reach until you have the ability, dare I say, the willingness to kind of jump into this movement. And we discover so much about ourselves, about each other, about the world. We also discover what terms like possible really mean. We discover what unity really is. And when people say play unified, when you come to a Special Olympics event, or even better, when you suit up and play unified, it's very, very clear quickly, what that means. And the reason why I say that, Daniel, is because the power comes in the numbers. Volunteers continue to come back to our movement. Unified partners continue to come back to the basketball court, the football pitch, the swimming pool. Schools continue to grow and engage in our Unified Champion Schools work. hundreds of thousands of healthcare providers year in and year out are joining the ranks of our global health work. There's a power behind those numbers. There's a reason why people continuously and sustainably engage in what it is we're doing. That's a testament to the unique ability of people with intellectual disabilities to teach us.
Awesome. I love that. You mentioned about the power of playing unified. A couple months ago, when the Unified World Volleyball Cup, I think, happened.
Yep.
I watched some of that coverage on YouTube,
Yep.
and there was an interview that you did, and I think Special Olympics showed that video clip of you talking about playing unified. Can you repeat that for all listeners who?
I'll
at least try to.
I mean, I'll do my best. It was a very unique. In fact, if I remember that interview correctly, I was right on the court. In fact, it was the early morning interview. So yeah, that was the Unified Volleyball World Cup in a city called Katowice, Poland. I had the great honor of being there. Unified sports is power. There's no better way to say it. When people ask me, "Oh, so what's unified sports?" It's power. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is when you team up with people in any capacity, you're both sharing your abilities, but you're also depending on theirs. And you're moving. Whenever you play a team sport, you're always hopeful that there's kind of this ability to coalesce, to have the team, become one strongly functioning unit, right? That's what any team will hold. That's why, basketball or football or any, or volleyball or floorball or any one of these team sports, whenever you play unified, you're making yourself vulnerable because you're joining a team. You hope that your talents can contribute. You also hope that you can depend on the talents of others. And all of a sudden, you join this unified sports world. It's not just an event. It's a whole mindset. And it's incredibly powerful because what comes from it is not just an incredible athletic experience where you're learning how to play potentially a new sport, even sports like basketball that as an American that I've played my whole life. I recently had a chance to play unified basketball in Bucharest in the country of Romania with athletes. And it was, in fact, I just wrote to the national director a couple of days ago, sharing what a memorable experience that was and how much I enjoyed it, and how much I can't wait to do it again, because it's such a powerful impression that is left on what you understand is possible. The world teaches us that unity is almost out of reach. None of us can get along. It's really just about you. Go it alone. No one's going to help you. These are all the kind of motifs we hear in today's society. Unified sports dispels all of them. And it doesn't dispel them in any sort of tough way. It doesn't dispel those myths in any sort of caustic way. It's actually quite beautiful. Come play. And when you play unified, you'll realize that you actually can depend on your teammates because your teammates are depending on you. And what you thought were people of differences are actually people just like you. And they're contributing their talents as you're contributing yours. And together, whether you win or lose, you're in the game. You're in the game. That's the beautiful thing about unified sports. Special Olympic athletes invite us to get in the game, not only in the game of sport, but in the game of life. Live life to the fullest. Be inclusive. Choose to include. These are not just ideals for a sporting match. These are ideals to take from the minute you wake up in the morning to the minute you rest your eyes at night. And that's power. And so again, I'm to forgive the passion, Daniel, but when people say, when people say what's unified sports is power. And of course, at the time, we were watching a unified sports match. It was a volleyball match. I think it was Poland versus the United Arab Emirates, maybe, or Austria versus the United Arab Emirates. And I mean, it was going on behind me, and you could feel the energy. And so when the journalist asked me, what do you think of unified sports? The only thing that came to mind was what I was feeling. This is powerful. You could hear the noise, you could hear the energy, you could hear the athletes spiking the ball, or you could hear the different teammates calling for here, there. It was just remarkable. And I've witnessed that. I've participated in that. I almost beg of people, if you're looking to change your mindset, if you're looking to create a better way, a better day, join a local unified sports team. Just win or lose, you've already won. Yeah. You've already won. The result of the match is almost, I don't want to say secondary, but it's almost secondary to that feel you get of this is better. This is better. And so, I encourage everyone to play unified, because if you can play unified, Daniel, you can live unified. And that's what I think the world is calling for.
Absolutely. Just like you spoke in that passion, I think a lot of us athletes also have the same passion in the sports and the leadership that we do. Speaking to some of your top priorities as you step into this global leadership position, you talked a little bit about wanting to learn, whether it's seeing the first unified cup in Europe, whether it's the first World Games in the Latin America region. I know in 2019, the first World Games that I attended as a Southern Shriver Global Messenger was in Abu Dhabi, and the first time that it was in the UAE region. So it's neat that the World Games is coming for the first time to another new region.
Absolutely. And listen, the passion that you spoke to on behalf of the athletes, Daniel, that's where all of us get it from. Let me be very clear. The passion that I feel for this, it was a gift given to me. It was not something, and I'll be very honest, it wasn't something that I, woke up one morning and said, oh gosh, I'm passionate about Special Olympics. This is the product of people like Kester Edwards, who is a longtime mentor of mine. Kester Edwards didn't teach me what is Special Olympics. He taught me why. People like Lucy Meyer, who has always been a very grounding source of inspiration for me, teaching me why Special Olympics, not just what it is, but why. Gary Barnes, a tremendous source of passion and energy. Gilmore Bohr, Kira Byland, the list goes on and on. About Nyasha, Jimmy in South Africa. The list goes on. So I just want to share, Daniel, that the passion is really a gift that the athletes give to us. And I guess if I took credit for anything, it would be that I was giving an upbringing by my mother and father, and I'm incredibly grateful to both of them, where they taught myself and my siblings the capacity to receive those gifts, to be open to those things. But it's the generosity of the athletes that I was given that. What are some of the things that some of my priorities? Well, Special Olympics has a very robust and ambitious strategic plan. We are dedicated to strengthening our local programs around the world. That is the heart and soul of Special Olympics. Special Olympics is your local athletics match at your local high school. Special Olympics is the bowling tournament in Nairobi. Special Olympics is the local powerlifting match in Minneapolis. Special Olympics is the unified football match in Rio de Janeiro. That's Special Olympics. It's the local, every local community. That's the heart and soul. So that's really where I think first and foremost are my priorities are strengthening the ability for local communities to adopt, expand, and strengthen Special Olympics work. Of course, as a direct byproduct of that, we're given the opportunity to bring so many additional impact measures to people with or without intellectual disabilities. Things like our Unified Champion Schools, our Healthy Athletes program, our Athlete Leadership program that, Daniel, you are just a shining example of. Our leadership academies, our Unify with Refugees work, our Motor Activities program, which I'll speak a little bit about. These are all of these come from our sport focus. And all of these come from the ability for us to mobilize and convene people together and show them that through sports, so much more is possible. And so, I'm very much looking forward to learning more about how best to support things like our inclusive education through sports work, our inclusive sports work, our inclusive health work, and so on, and so much more. I think if you look around the world, Daniel, one of the things that will be one of my biggest priorities at a movement level will be to consistently sustain our focus and our investment in the digitization of our movement. We've got to digitize the way in which we bring our movement to the world, not only to keep up with modern technological trends, but also because if we digitize the movement as we've done, and we continuously move in this direction, it makes participation easier. It makes athlete registration easier. It makes engaging more families easier. It makes capturing their aspirations and their dreams easier. It helps reaching them. It makes reaching them easier. It helps us to communicate the power of our movement to more and more people. So the digitization, we've got to consistently focus not only on the person-to-person side of our movement, which is, again, the heart and soul is inclusion's a contact sport. Mm-hmm. But when we digitize, we're able to and make it more digital. The digitalization helps us reach, helps us engage, and helps us sustain. And so those are very, very key. These are key priorities of the movement and of mine. From a more personal perspective, I'd say that three of my top priorities, for David Evangelista, one is undoubtedly the continued strengthening of our athlete leadership work. It goes without saying, this is your movement, Daniel. This is a movement from the athletes. And the more if you look at, not to make it like a stock in the stock market, but if you look at how we've invested, if you look at our movement's growth, and you tangentially look at how much we've invested in athlete leadership, you'll see that they correlate. Yeah. The more we've invested in athlete leadership, the stronger and wider our movement has become. And that's not by accident. I don't believe that is an accident whatsoever. That's not a coincidence. When we invest in the leadership of our athletes, when we harness their voice, when we disseminate their message consistently, almost tenaciously, this is what happens to the movement. It gets better, it gets stronger. In addition, I want to put a lot of emphasis also on our motor activities training program, Daniel. Of course, as a leader in our movement, what we know internally as MATP, the Motor Activities Training Program. It's a program for athletes with severe and profound intellectual disabilities, often nonverbal, often non-mobile. But it's one of the most important parts of our movement. In fact, I've often said, if we can't do MATP, we can't do Special Olympics. These are athletes that will never make it to a World Games as such, but they hold the spirit of Special Olympics perhaps in the strongest way. And I believe that every national program around the world, all 190 of them, should in some way implement motor activities training program, because it demonstrates the breadth and commitment of what is Special Olympics. So I'm very excited to continuously learn from and invest into the MATP program. Lastly, from a priority standpoint, I'm very excited also to be in touch with and finding ways to expand the work of our Global Coalition for Inclusion. The Global Coalition for Inclusion is a multilateral platform that engages national governments and all different sector level partners in investing in national programs, namely in their unified work. And the reason why is because we have seen across many countries, the United States of America being one, how much impact and how much growth our movement can experience when we're able to receive government financing. And I think that it's very important that every government be invited, not to donate to, but to invest in Special Olympics. And I think at the end of the day, if we do this right, as we have, the future will be incredibly bright. And many national governments will look back and say, that was one of the best social investments we've ever made in this country, when we invested in Special Olympics. And so those are just some of my priorities, Daniel. I'm sure there's many more. Gosh, I could spend a whole hour speaking about them, but those are just some of them.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I love that. I want to comment on and during the rest of the program, we'll probably combine a few bullets and questions just for the sake of time. But I want to comment. You mentioned the Global Coalition of Inclusion. I had Sean Ferguson on this past spring, because as an SSGM, I attended the first one that they had in Berlin, and so I was kind of building upon that experience of, and I don't think any of us knew exactly what that was going to be like at that first one, but it was neat to have Sean on. So our listeners can go back, and I think that episode, what I want to say, May or June of this year.
And by the way, he told me how much Sean expressed to me how thrilled he was to be part of that. And so you should know, Daniel, that Sean was a huge proponent of Special Chronicles. And when I told him that I received this generous invitation, he said, "David, you couldn't be part of a better podcast." So shout out to Sean Ferguson, but also to the great work that so many of the team is doing. Yeah. But Sean was one that was very happy to hear.
Absolutely.
That I got the invite.
The first time that I had our chairman Tim Shriver on during the 50th anniversary, I got connected with Sean, because Sean at the time had helped us to organize. And I think when I the first time with Tim, we were in a hotel in downtown Chicago, and the only space that we could find was the lobby. No, was a hallway in the hotel. So, but
yeah. But listen, I mean, the great thing, it's in the movement of Special Olympics. We're flexible, we're gritty, we're prepared, we're adaptable. But again, these are all lessons given to us by the athletes. We learn those things from you, and the athletes of Special Olympics, especially the SSGMs, the Sergeant Shriver Global Messengers, because you get such great training from our team.
Yeah, we do.
But we also get great training from you. It's a very bi-directional type of relationship. But anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, and then I wanted to highlight the digitalization. I know in my local program in Special Olympics Illinois, we just rolled out, and I think a few other programs have done this too, the Center of Excellence, I think.
Center of Excellence, yes.
Yeah. So, which this afternoon, I'm going to log on the computer with my mom, because we're going to set up an account on that.
That's a great listen. I'm glad you mentioned that, because the Center of Excellence really is going to be, how do I put this in layman's terms, for myself and for everyone else? It's very much the glue that will connect all the different parts of our movement together into one central hub. Now, you can call that a database, you can call that a portal, you can call that whatever you like, a center of excellence. But really what it is it's getting all of the very important and growing data of our movement around athlete experience, doctor experience, teacher experience, volunteers, partners, donors, leaders. It gets it all into one place. And I mean, it's an incredibly audacious task, and we're doing it with great, with great focus and great commitment. But when this is finished, Daniel, we'll have you and many others, many athletes to thank for helping push us to achieve this. It's a significant milestone in our movement to formalize a central global hub of information and access, so that we can not only demonstrate who we are, but also how we are, where we are, when we are. I mean, it's just the list goes on and on. And so I'm very excited. It's I should mention, Daniel, I don't consider myself overly tech savvy. So I may join you and your mom when you go in one of these days. Yeah. If it's okay, I'll join you. I'll share my screen. But no, it's a great focus and a huge priority.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'll let my mom know that
please let her know. She may have a guest.
Yes. So and then the last note I wanted to, before we move quickly into the last few bullets here, you mentioned the importance of starting at the local level. During the World Games in Berlin, one of the panels that I got to speak on as a Southern Shriver Global Messenger was at I believe it was the local program summit.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, and I forgot what part of the local program I talked about. It might have been about athlete leadership, but either way, it was neat to not only speak on a panel, but also to be a part of to lead one of the table discussions, and so it's neat that even at the international level that we're focusing on the local level, because I think that's, you talked about it starting out as a volunteer, and even for a lot of us athletes, even before we become a Southern Shriver Global Messenger, we all start out at the local level.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why I say the local program, Daniel, is the heart and soul of the movement. I mean, there's no national games or state games without local programs. There's no regional games without local programs. There's certainly no world games without local program. I mean, local programming is Special Olympics. That's where the magic happens. That's where the learnings happen. That's where the impact happens. Everything after that is a direct byproduct of the movement's ability to engage and strengthen local Special Olympics programming. If we can do that, there's no stopping us. Every nation, every national program, state or national, that invests in its local programming is almost guaranteed growth. It's the simple formula. You can't go statewide until you have a lot of local programs. You can't go nationwide until you have a lot of local. It's where the magic happens, and so it's a key focus. And I'm glad, Daniel, that you would attest to that. That you validate that.
Absolutely. You can continue. You mentioned our chairman, Tim Shriver. Your leadership is. Can you just comment a little bit on how you see your leadership building upon not only the legacy of our chairman, Tim Shriver, but also the outgoing CEO, Mary Davis, as well as our founder, Eunice Shriver, and what aspects of their leadership that will inspire you to take the movement into the future?
Well, I think let me start from the top. So let me start with, our founder, Eunice Shriver, has always been, a very iconic figure in my life. My father had the great privilege of working very closely, both with Mrs. Shriver and with Mr. Shriver. She and Mr. and Mrs. Shriver have always been these kind of iconic figures. I had the chance to work with them as a very young man at the very beginning of my career. I have many stories of having met with them and having been so motivated by their example. Mrs. Shriver, I guess the one lesson I would say I take from Mrs. Shriver is, if you're on the right side of history, don't stop. Because there'll be plenty of reasons why you're told you should stop. But if you're on the right side of history, keep going. And she surely was on the right side of history. And people called her all sorts of things for this audacious proposition called Special Olympics. But history absolved all of those. So one lesson I can take from Mrs. Shriver is, when you know that you're on the right side of history, keep going. I've had the great honor of working for and with Dr. Timothy Shriver for now, 26 years, a bit over 26 years. And, I've worked closer and longer with Tim Shriver than I have with Mrs. Shriver. Tim's relentless and tenacious pursuit for dignity for everyone, and his unwillingness to accept anything but that. And he'll motivate all of us to leave no stone unturned to ensure that we invite people to see the world through the eyes of Special Olympics. I remember him speaking. I remember having lunch with him once where he said, David, imagine if all of these people came to this world. Imagine they came to the world of Special Olympics. Imagine if the world could be just like this. And I remember saying to myself, yeah. I mean, imagine, and we can create that. And so, I have to, I extend such deep gratitude to Mrs. Shriver, Mr. Shriver, Dr. Timothy Shriver, for encouraging us to be bold, to be brave, to be brave in the attempt, but also to be confident that what we're doing is right, that what we're doing is noble, and that it's necessary. It's not just nice; it's urgent. There's listen, what a huge honor it's been to work for Mary Davis for these past 10 years as she's been chief executive officer. I mean, the list is too long because I've worked very closely, of course, with Mary over the past 10 years. I've learned so much from her. I'm still learning so much from her. Her poise, her ability to remain calm amidst things that are anything but. Think of a thing like COVID, and her ability to execute such operational brilliance and to keep the ship steady when it was nothing but turbulent waters. Her consistent responsiveness, her willingness to engage, her persistence, her grit. Most importantly, I would say, if there's one trait that I hope I can emulate from Mary, is her stamina. I mean, just a very quick point. I remember, and this is a very recent story. I hope she listens to the podcast because she'll remember this. But we were in Turin, Italy, launching kind of the, I don't know, if maybe 100 days to the games, or kind of launching a new logo or whatever it was. And Mary was in Washington at the time. She flew over to Turin. She lands. She gets in a cab, comes to the press conference, speaks in front of 50 journalists and 300 people, comes off of that, goes right to a lunch, has lunch with, all of the big partners and sponsors and the LOC, and fully engaged, fully focused, comes out of the lunch, goes to another unveiling, another public speaking event, and she's speaking to media. She's meeting athletes, meeting families. You would never know that she had just come off a transatlantic flight. There was no stop at the hotel. There was no, can you hold my bag? The stamina, the strength, and the clarity that Mary has shown over the past 10 years as CEO, notwithstanding, the decades of tremendous commitment and dedication and excellence. The list goes on, but that was one experience where I look back and say, gosh, I hope I can gain that stamina. Because at the end of the day, I asked her, I said, Mary, gosh, it's just amazing. She goes, well, you get the energy from the athletes. And she's right. When you're on the ground, you don't feel tired. I'm sure when you get back to the hotel and you're alone, you do feel real tired after that. But in the moment, the adrenaline is there because the athletes are feeding us that energy. They're feeding us that vibe. And so, I'm so grateful to the vision of Mrs. Shriver, of Tim, of Mary, of the opportunities they've given so many of us, athletes and staff and volunteers alike, the opportunities to bring the best version of ourselves and to invite the best version of others. So I hope that answers your question, but that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Yeah, I know it's definitely a tough one. We're gonna combine the next couple bullets just for the sake of time because we'll already get about.
I'm sorry if I've gone long, Daniel. I've really enjoyed it. Sorry.
No. It's funny, and the good thing about the podcast is people can pause and listen. Anytime. Your previous role as president and managing director of Special Olympics Europe, Asia. How if you were, we don't have time to get into your entire career journey, but how has your work shaped? How has your work as the managing director and president of Europe, your age region, shaped your perspective on global inclusion, and then follow that up with how all of your roles, including the Global Safe Sport Task Force, the Center for Sports and Human Rights, UNICEF Assistive Technology Task Force, and the Lions Club International. How has all of those roles, including the president and managing director of your Asia region, helped to advance inclusion for those of us with intellectual disabilities?
Well, I can say it's been a really interesting time leading this team in Europe, Eurasia. And I have to say, Daniel, I put leading in quotes because in many ways they're the leaders. I've had the great privilege of partnering with them, learning from them, maybe at certain times helping them and supporting them. But it's been shared leadership. It's been interesting leading Europe as an American. All of my family's roots, both my personal family and now my political family, my marriage, they're all in Europe. So both sides of my family have deep Italian roots in Italy. My wife is Basque here in Spain, and so we have deep Spanish roots. So it's been interesting. I've learned a lot. One thing I've learned is this: despite the diversity, economically, socially, politically, ideologically, of Europe, one thing is universal. There's no community in Europe that Special Olympics cannot lead change. Whether Kosovo, Sweden, Czech Republic, Uzbekistan, Malta, Great Britain, there's no community in Europe, Eurasia, and I would dare say worldwide, where Special Olympics cannot lead positive change through the example set by our athletes. And that's not intuitive because when you look at Europe, especially Europe, Eurasia, it's an incredibly diverse region. I mean, you've got G7 countries and you've got some of the poorest countries in the world. And yet our ability to affect change in all these countries is quite universal. So that's been remarkable. I've also learned a lot about the ways in which politics, we're an apolitical movement, but it doesn't mean we can't pay attention to what's happening. And one of the things that I'll never forget is the way in which I fully understood the European identity was in February of 2022 when Russia invaded Ukraine. That was one of the That was one of it was one of the moments that stood out in terms of, the way in which this role demands of us the responsibility of mitigating risks, of staying apolitical, focus on the lives of our athletes, stay above the noise, focus on what's right, but focus on also what's fair. These are just some of the lessons I've learned, but the biggest lesson is, from the furthest eastern corners of this region to the furthest western corners of this region, we have the ability, we have the opportunity to affect positive change in all of these communities, and what a wonderful thing.
Absolutely. As we look to the future of the movement, can you sum up what you see as the biggest opportunities for Special Olympics in the next decade? Well, you're going to be beginning in 2026 in just a month and a half, from now. So what do you see as the biggest opportunities for the movement?
The future, Daniel, of the Special Olympics movement has never been brighter. Now, that may seem odd when you consider that the world potentially has never seemed more in distress. But I think the movement of Special Olympics and the message of the athletes of Special Olympics is actually more urgent now than ever. But there's a big difference. Right now, unlike, let's say, 25, 30 years ago, Daniel, the theme of inclusion is actually very well understood. 30, 40 years ago, the theme of inclusion was still quite marginal to people's everyday experience. There's been a number of things that have happened over the years that has kind of made the theme of inclusion a bit more prominent, a bit more understood. My personal opinion is nothing made inclusion more widely understood than COVID, because we understood what happens when you don't include people. When people are left on the margins, the results can be tragic. And so the theme of inclusion now, I think, is more urgent than ever. I think the footprint of our movement is now so global, and it's so wide and yet so deep that we have the ability to disseminate the message of our athletes almost anywhere. I mean, if we do it with excellence and we do it with focus, I think that the future of Special Olympics is always at the local program. It's in the local school. It's in your local clinic. It's in your local Lions Club. It's in your local area. That's the future. And by the way, the world is hungry for something to believe in. The world, in a world that has become so digital, not to take away from one of my priorities, Daniel, but not to take away from that, but in a world that has become so digital, we forget that there's a better version than this. I'd rather be in the studio with you.
Yeah.
I'd rather high five you. I'd rather go to lunch after this and hear about how things are going. And hey, how was Chicago? And how's your mom? And who's up next on Special Chronicles? There's even a better version than this, which is in person.
It is.
I think that's really the unique ingredient that Special Olympics, in all of its matrix and all of its labyrinth of health and education and sport and games and leadership and all of these things, there's one unique common denominator. We have to be together. You can't do Special Olympics alone. You got to be together. And I think that's beautiful, especially in a world that is really yearning to just get together. I mean, I don't want to talk about news and politics. I'm talking about people like you and I.
Yeah.
We want to be together. I don't care what your politic is. Let's just go play some football. Let's go play around the golf. Talk to me about the things you'd like to do in Special Olympics Illinois. Give my friend Pete, a big hello, or how's my friend Dave Breen doing? Or we want to be together, and that's the power. That's the way in which Special Olympics invites us to be together. And we do it through sport. And it's healthy. You don't have to be the best at it. You just have to participate. And that's the other great thing about Special Olympics. We're not asking people to be the best. We're asking people to be their best. Great. Okay. So I hope I'm my best. And if I'm not my best today, I'm going to give it a chance tomorrow. And if tomorrow's not my day, then I've got another day to try. And so that's why Mr. Shriver, I'll end with this. Mr. Shriver said to me once, we were walking, our old offices were on G Street in Washington, D.C. And I was walking in the mailroom, and Mr. Shriver pointed to a billboard that was in the mailroom, and it said something that I never forgot. It was said in a geographic way, but I understood it to be even more than just geographic. It said, "The sun never sets on the movement of Special Olympics." As if to say, there's no dawn and dusk. There's no beginning and end. The sun never sets on Special Olympics. And I also understood that to be more personal, where there's no limits. It's boundless what we can achieve through the example set by you and by so many like you. That clarity of thought, that ability to be brave, to be inviting, to be empathetic, but also to be firm, to be strong. Imagine all of these things coming together, and how do we manifest it? Badminton, football, downhill skiing. It's wonderful. I think the future is incredibly bright for the movement of Special Olympics. And I have to say, Daniel, and if I didn't say this, I'd be remiss. I know this to be true because if you look at a platform like Special Chronicles, if Special Chronicles is any indication of where our movement is going, we're going places. And we'll get there with you, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a perfect final message. We got one final question, and to introduce that final question, we've got a bumper. So let's go ahead and roll that bumper.
We're not just athletes.
We are the ambassadors of an uprising.
Peaceful protesters.
In a rebellion against anyone
who has a fear of difference.
Difference.
Our demands are
equality,
dignity,
and the recognition of our
shared humanity. We will not stop
or accept anything less.
Today, our world is
more divided than ever.
And coming together has never been more urgent.
The revolution
is inclusion.
Find out more at jointherevolution.org.
So, ever since I attended the 2019 World Games in Abu Dhabi, I've been asking one final question, because we don't just want our listeners to, we of course want our listeners to listen to the podcast, but even more than that, just like in the Special Olympics movement, same thing on Special Chronicles. We want our listeners to take inclusion and to learn from the conversation that we had today, and bring inclusion into their communities, into their local communities, their national, international communities, schools, workplaces, sport clubs. And so this final question will help our listeners to do just that. And so I'll ask you, just like I've asked a number of the guests the past 5-6 years, what does inclusion mean to you?
Inclusion to me means giving of yourself to better yourself. Give of yourself. Include. When you include someone, you take a risk, because you're giving space without any guarantee of reciprocity, any guarantee of receptivity. To me, inclusion is giving of oneself to better oneself. Whenever I've participated in unified sports, I always come out better. whenever this podcast, I'll the rest of my day will be better. I had a chance to speak with Kira Byland in London a couple of weeks ago. The rest of the day I felt better. When you choose to include, you're making yourself better. Now, hopefully, we're also making the world better, but we're also making ourselves better. And so, inclusion to me is giving of oneself to better oneself.
Absolutely. That's a perfect way to wrap up. Thank you so much, David, for taking the time to come on the Special Chronicles podcast. And hopefully one day we can do this in person.
Listen, Daniel, what a generous invitation. It's a big honor that you invited me and to take part. I'm a huge admirer of Special Chronicles. I'm glad that I now have an opportunity to donate to Special Chronicles, which I will. But my only ask, if I can ask one thing of you, Daniel, before we close, don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop. You're on the right side. Keep going. Keep going. Everyone I've talked to who's on Special Chronicles comes away saying, "Man, that was the best. Now I know why." Thank you so much. You've made this. What a great way to move into the Thanksgiving holiday. As an American, I'm very thankful for your leadership, Daniel. Thankful for your generous invitation, but also just grateful for gaining from your energy and from your example. Keep going.
Thank you. Thank you, David, so much for sharing your story, your vision for Special Olympics. And to our listeners, you can join David and join our supporters and contribute to the Special Chronicles 2026 giving campaign at specialchronicles.com/give to help us continue to produce weekly episodes sharing inclusive stories and amplifying voices that deserve to be heard. You can learn more about and join us at Special Olympics at specialolympics.org to find your local program. And don't forget to follow the Special Chronicles podcast on specialchronicles.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a rating and review. Every bit helps to grow the inclusion revolution. Remember, inclusion is about giving everyone a seat at the table and a chance to shine. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week right here on specialchronicles.com. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Special Chronicles podcast. Our podcast was produced by Daniel Smokowski on the Special Chronicles Network. Follow Special Chronicles on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Subscribe, rate, and review Special Chronicles on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Our website, specialchronicles.com, where you can stream our archives of over 500 episodes for free. Also, there's a list of our favorites, original series, award-winning columns, and blogs. And sign up for our newsletter to receive exclusive bonus content delivered to your inbox. Again, specialchronicles.com. Special Chronicles is hosted by Podbean Podcast Hosting. Our live streams are powered by StreamYard. Thanks, as always, to our business manager, Adam Smokowski, who always encourages us to never give up. I'm Daniel Smokowski, back next week with more stories.
Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.